Beneath the quiet Kent town of Chislehurst, just outside London, there is a plain door set into a hillside. Step through it, and you leave the daylight behind and enter a world of darkness. 22 miles of tunnels, dug by hand into the white chalk, winding away for mile after mile beneath the streets and houses above. People have worked down here, hidden down here, and sheltered down here in their thousands. And some, it is said, have died down here. For many years, the owners offered a reward to anyone brave enough to spend a single night alone in the deepest, most haunted part of the caves. Few would ever take it, and of the ones who did, not all of them lasted until morning. This is the strange story of Chislehurst Caves. The first thing to understand is that these are not caves at all, not in the natural sense. There are no stalactites here, no underground rivers that carved them out over millions of years. Every inch of these tunnels was cut by human hands. They are mines, some of the oldest in Britain, and parts of them may be 8,000 years old. The earliest miners came here in the age of stone, digging out chalk and flint. The flint for their tools and weapons, the chalk for their fields. And over the centuries that followed, generation after generation came back and dug deeper, extending the tunnels further and further into the hill, until they had carved out this vast, silent labyrinth beneath the earth. For a long time, the guides who led visitors through the caves told them that the different sections had been dug by Druids, by Romans, and by Saxons, and pointed out altars where dark rituals were said to have taken place. It made for a wonderful story. But the truth is that much of that was Victorian showmanship, names and legends invented to thrill the tourists. What we know for certain is more modest, but no less remarkable. That people were mining here before recorded history, and that the digging went on and off for thousands of years, right up until the 19th century. When the mining finally stopped, the caves did not fall silent. A dark, dry, hidden network of tunnels close to London was far too useful for that. Legend has it that smugglers used the caves to hide their contraband, slipping their barrels and bales into the darkness where no taxman would ever find them. And when the world went to war, the caves found a new and serious purpose. During the First World War, the tunnels were used as an enormous ammunition store, packed with explosives for the great arsenal at Woolwich. Later, in the peace that followed, part of the caves was turned over to a stranger trade still, the growing of mushrooms in the cool, damp dark. But it was the Second World War that gave Chislehurst Caves their most extraordinary chapter. When the German bombers came night after night in the Blitz, the people of the area needed somewhere safe to hide, and here, deep beneath the ground, was the safest place for miles. What began as a simple shelter grew into something almost unbelievable. An underground town. At its height, as many as 15,000 people slept in these tunnels every single night. There were rows upon rows of bunks. There was a chapel and a hospital. There was even a barber and a cinema. Whole families lived down here in the darkness. Children went to sleep to the distant thud of the bombs far above, and life went on. One baby was even born in the caves during the war, and given as a middle name the word Kavanagh, in honour of the place that had kept her safe. When the war ended and the people went back up into the light, the caves had one more surprising life to live. In the 1950s and 60s, the great echoing chambers became a real music venue, and some of the biggest names in rock played down here in the dark beneath the ground, among them David Bowie, Jimi Hendrix and Pink Floyd. But as the music faded, older and stranger stories began to gather in the shadows. Because for all its history, Chislehurst Caves are best known today for something else entirely. They are said to be haunted. The The most famous of all the ghosts is the White Lady. In one part of the caves lies a deep, still pool of black water, known simply as the Haunted Pool. And the story told of it is a grim one. 2 centuries ago, they say, a woman was murdered here by her husband, her body weighted down with stones and thrown into the water to lie hidden in the dark forever. And ever since, a pale figure, a lady in white, has been seen rising from the pool and drifting silently down the tunnels. Some say she is searching, some say she is waiting, and there is one detail that gives the story an uneasy edge. For it is said that in the 1940s, the bones of a woman were discovered in that very chamber. She is not the only spirit said to walk these tunnels. Visitors and guides over the years have reported the ghost of a Roman soldier, a centurion, forever wandering the passages in search of a legion he will never find. There are stories of a young girl who died in a partial collapse of the caves in 1939, and of the laughter and weeping of unseen children in the dark, of small stones thrown from the shadows by hands that are not there. And there is an old tale that a priest brought down to bless the tunnels and drive out whatever dwelt in them was so overcome by what he found that he died of fright. Which brings us back to the challenge. For many years, the owners of the caves made an offer that became famous. Spend one night alone in the haunted section of the tunnels, and the reward was yours. It sounds like easy money. It was not. In the 1950s, a policeman took up the dare, a man used to dark streets and frightening situations. He did not last the night. He fled, shaken, claiming he had been confronted by a menacing figure in the dark. And then, in the 1980s, 2 of the cave's own tour guides, men who knew these tunnels better than anyone alive, decided to try it for themselves. They knew every passage. They knew there was nothing down there to be afraid of. And yet, before the night was through, both men had to be brought out, in a state of pure terror. One of them, it is said, suffered some kind of fit or seizure and had to be rushed to hospital. Whatever it was they experienced down there in the dark, it was enough. After that, the challenge was quietly stopped, and it has never been offered again. So what is really down there? Over the years, the caves have been investigated by paranormal researchers, filmed by television ghost hunters, and searched by people determined to find the truth. One team spent an entire night underground with cameras and instruments, recording every sound. They heard odd noises, a dog barking, footsteps, a child crying. But when they examined it all afterwards, almost everything had a natural explanation. The caves, after all, are a strange environment. They are pitch black, they are cold, the air is heavy and still, and sound behaves in odd ways in those long, echoing tunnels. Down there, in total darkness, a mile from the daylight, the mind can play tricks that feel utterly real. A frightened man alone in the dark does not need a real ghost to be terrified. His own imagination will do the job for him. And yet, that does not quite explain everything. It does not explain 2 experienced guides, men who had walked those tunnels 1,000 times, being carried out shaking, one of them collapsing. It does not explain the bones in the haunted pool, and it does not explain why, to this day, some people who go down into Chislehurst caves come back up convinced, absolutely convinced, that they were not alone. The caves are still there, beneath the quiet Kent town, and you can still walk them today by the light of a lantern, just as the visitors have always done. 8,000 years of history are cut into that chalk, the miners and the smugglers, the soldiers and the sheltering families. But it is the other residents, the ones no one can quite prove are there, that people remember. Somewhere down in the dark, beside a pool of black water, the lady in white is said to be waiting still, and the only way to know for certain is to go down there and spend a night alone.